The Nike Tiempo Legend 10 is probably one of my least favorite football boots on the market. Now, that's for a few different reasons. One is the fake leather upper, this Fly Touch Plus, that really isn't all that impressive, especially when you compare it to things like the Asics DS Lite X-Fly Pro 3 that just came out. That new silky wrap is absolutely incredible and actually feels like leather. The new shape is really disappointing. The only redeeming quality, I would say, is this sole plate, which in true Tiempo fashion is actually quite good and very neutral, something that I actually kind of like. However, the new Luxe Pack Tiempo, established in 1984, is right in this box. And today we're going to talk all through the tech specs, talk about what it's like to play in as well. We'll get it out on pitch and rip around. I'm very excited about these, but I'm also really, really nervous to see if Tiempo actually is back. So let's hop into the unboxing. Now you get a really, really nice black box with the Tiempo Legend logoing here, that new Tiempo logoing established in 1984. Little size guide right there. They've actually shrunk it to be accommodating for this kind of interesting big box here. This is my usual 9 US, a Legend 10 Elite FG Special Edition or Luxe Pack, which is kind of interesting because the new Copa Pure 3 is also called the Luxe Pack. I don't know why they did that way, and I'm sure this wasn't planned, but you got the same name, so that's a little weird. And then you've got this Tiempo Legend here as well in this really nice crimson. As we open up the box, you are greeted with this absolutely beautiful red interior. Actually, not too dissimilar from the inside of the box for the Emerald Pack colorway of the Tiempo Legend 10. Now, really quickly before we jump into the unboxing, make sure you subscribe to the channel. 70% of you watching these videos aren't subscribed, and it's free. And I put out 2 videos a week, so subscribe right down here. So getting into the unboxing of these boots, here we go. Oh, wow. Oh my days. Okay. Very nice little embossed Tiempo Legend there. Very nice little bag. And unfortunately, this isn't leather. Even though it looks and feels like leather, it isn't leather. So here we go. Get this opened. Oh. Oh. Wow. Okay. Look at that. That is much better. Much, much better than the previous gen, or I guess the regular edition. Sole plate is the same. Heel and Flyknit area through the lace is the exact same. But this forefoot and the general shape and design of this boot, look at the differences between that way, and then more importantly, look at the differences between how high the toe box is. So for those of you who really struggled to get in the Tiempo Legend 10, this looks like it's going to have a lot more room in that forefoot area. Let's get this one out as well, and we'll take this beautiful bag out. I'm a little disappointed that it's not leather, obviously, the bag and the boots, but here we go. Let's give you guys a good look really quick at what the boots look like. You got that Fly Touch Plus logoing right there. So this is not K-leather, unfortunately, nor is it any other type of leather. You've got that chrome finish, will wear off with use over time. Love that. Always have to include it because there are dumbasses out there who will sue Nike because their boots broke and they wore them and the chrome finish comes off and they're like, well, this is so bad. It's like, that's what happens when you play in your boots. Go figure. Okay, Tiempo Legend 10 Luxe Pack. So about 2 weeks ago, Jamal Musiala was seen wearing these actually in a Bayern Munich training session, and people freaked out about them. I actually posted a photo of these as well as a reel from Substance Football, who's a wonderful creator who I know through Instagram. He's in the UK, and he posted something about this and basically was like, imagine a maiden, it was something about like going to KFC, but you'd ask for fish or something like that. The point being was, and I thought it was actually quite funny, because basically what we're saying is this is a Maiden Montebelluna Tiempo. And Made in Montebelluna Tiempos are made of leather. So I don't know why this one isn't leather. He and I were both saying a very, very similar sentiment, very similar thing. So why is this not made of leather? Well, I can't answer that in today's video, but what I can answer is this what the Tiempo 10 should have been and maybe could be? So as you guys probably know already from a couple of the videos that I've done with Made in Montebelluna products, this is basically the shoe capital of the Veneto region. And Montebelluna, excuse me, is where Nike's most prestigious football factory is. This particular colorway they're calling port wine and bright crimson obviously being here, and then you have some of the Italian flag insignia and the Made in Montebelluna crest in the inside of that shoe. There you go, you can see it right there. So very, very nice. I actually have a pair of Made in Montebelluna as well, a couple of them, but this is probably my favorite Made in Montebelluna, and this is the Hypervenom 3. So you can see here that logoing on the bottom there is also in the inside, so you get that insignia established in 1996, which is when the Montebelluna factory opened. It is very much the most prestigious factory that Nike has. Now, as far as tech goes, so this is a complete fly touch upper. So on paper, it's the same as the regular Tiempo 10 Elite. And I say regular, I know this is a special edition version, but you get what I'm saying. This is the normal look, right? The normal shape, the normal look. However, there are a few key differences that you're gonna be able to see. I'll actually throw this one down as well so you can kind of get a sense of what both of them are like. So here in the toe box area, obviously with this one, we got kind of this quilted look that is an upper that really isn't that amazing in my opinion. The fly touch just, it didn't really do it for me. And although it is okay soft, because the shape, they've really slimmed the shape down both from a width perspective and from a volume perspective in the toe, just for context as well. And this will be interesting because this is a very similar colorway. I actually have the old maroon Tiempo Legend 3 Elite. So as you can see, look at the shape difference from what a Tiempo used to be. So that's what a Tiempo used to be. And then even more shocking, look at the volume differences in the toe box area, right? So old Tiempos of the past, and you can see it with Tiempo Legend 5, with the, I was gonna say Totti versions, I used to have those, but the Ronaldinho versions, obviously with the Tiempo Legend 3 Elite, you had Tiempos were meant to be comfortable, right? They're meant to fit pretty much everybody. And the Legend 10 Elite really went away from that. Not only didn't it have leather, but it also, from a shape perspective, was kind of a nightmare in my opinion. What they've done with this is actually really interesting. So number one, this does actually feel about the same or even lighter weight than this one does, the regular edition. And then they've added what almost feels like padding. So if I take out the little paper here and we do that, that is a lot more leather-like, like remarkably more leather-like than this. This feels synthetic-y, it feels kind of gross, it's a little bit shiny and reflective, but this feels absolutely fantastic for a synthetic leather. It's not quite what Silky Wrap is on the brand new Asics DS Lite X-Fly Pro 3, which I rate as probably the best synthetic leather boot on the market, bar none pretty much. But this is a lot closer than this one. So I'm very curious to know. Really, my only concern is how does this actually fit on feet? Does it fit a little bit better? And is it gonna perform a lot better than these ones? Because from a performance perspective, the sole plate does a great job. And generally speaking, I actually really like the Tiempo sole plate. I like the last generation, and I also like this one as well. But this upper and the heel and the shape were just an absolute tragedy. So I'm hoping that with this new, more kind of higher volume, with the stitching pattern, and you get this little bit more plush upper, that this is actually gonna be a much better successor to the Tiempo Legend 9, even though it's a synthetic, and it's actually remarkably lightweight for what it is. So let's get it on pitch and do a little play test. Let's rock and roll. All right, fam, out on the pitch, and we've got the Tiempo LUXE. I am actually quite excited about these, a little nervous, but we're gonna jump straight into the on feet and the play test. Here we go. Oh yeah.
Okay, so not an Oh My Days. Definitely more of a Tiempo shape, which I really like. So straight out of the box, the toe box area is really where this boot shines compared to the normal Tiempo Legend 10. This is much, much better from a shape perspective, at least for my feet. You can probably see it's quite a lot more comfortable in that toe box area because of how much higher volume there is. And that's something that I think will actually influence the playability of this boot by quite a significant margin, simply because for me and for a lot of us who were Tiempo users in the past, the new Tiempo Legend 10 was simply unplayable given how narrow the boot was in general, especially in that toe box area. It's really low volume, it's really narrow, and it's just not really a Tiempo anymore. And these ones take a totally different kind of shape in that toe box area. So kind of getting straight into the warm-up. Nice. Yeah, honestly, guys, these are a lot better. This is kind of what I would expect from, like, I think this is what I would expect the CTR 5 or CTR 4 to actually feel like, which is a big deal, right? Because this is kind of what we come to expect from the modern day Tiempo, is really a boot that is meant now for narrow foot shapes. In fact, I think the Vapor 16 and Superfly are actually wider than the normal Tiempo, whereas this one kind of takes a little bit more of that comfort that we expect from a Tiempo Legend and puts it back into, albeit a synthetic package, but so far the shape, at least for my foot, the shape of the boot is so much better. So that is a massive improvement in my book. Now, in terms of the midfoot in the heel area, I would say that because they've gone with the, yes, it's fly touch, but it does feel slightly more comfortable than the normal Tiempo Legend 10. That is one thing that the midfoot actually feels a lot more, a lot more, I guess, how would you say, manageable in terms of width and stretch. So it's still a little bit snug. I'll probably have to take them off at some point during the session, but the midfoot, because of the extra volume in the toe, feels a little bit better. But really, I think the most important part of the process of wearing these for the first time is really the toe box area that makes such a difference to the playability of the boots, because at the end of the day, a lot of these little touches, right, as you're coming through, that's all flexing and manipulating the toe box area, because I'm touching the boot or touching the ball with that part of the boot, not the midfoot often. And so that's where you really feel the difference, is because you can really kind of wiggle your toes due to the stitching and due to the extra little bit of plushness that it feels. It makes manipulating and playing with the ball so much better. And from a comfort perspective, opening up that toe box, similar to the construction of the Morelia Neo or Morelia Neo Beta, right? You've got a pretty snug midfoot, but then a really kind of, not loose, but like open and flexible toe box. And they've taken that DNA and put it in this. All right, so third drill in, feeling a little cramped in the midfoot, but that's kind of to be expected given that this is built on the same last and same sole plate as the normal one. So, ooh, nice. Wow, all right, there you go. First shot, top bins, let's go. Very good. So the other thing that I notice with this Fly Touch Plus, and I don't know if it's like this particular generation, there you go. Wow, 2 out of 2. God damn, maybe I just have to wear these Tiempo LUXEs for the rest of my life. So one thing that I'm also noticing is sort of the grip element, not quite, the grip element on that Fly Touch Plus, not grippy, but it does have just that little bit of kind of something to it that allows me to sort of, especially in dry weather conditions, that just like, I don't know, you can feel it a little bit more than sort of some of those colorways from the Tiempo 10 that have been like completely matte and slippery. So one area that you're gonna feel the Fly Touch Plus synthetic is also in the break-in time. So compared to Tiempos of the past, even the Made in Montebelluna ones, you really didn't have a whole lot of break-in because it was a natural leather. But with the synthetic, yes, they're softening up. Yes, they're feeling definitely better out of the box than the regular Tiempo 10. But in terms of a synthetic leather material, I find that these are probably on par, maybe a little bit worse than the Puma King Ultimate 2.0. I think they're nowhere near the ASICS Silky Wrap, the new DS Lite X-Fly Pro 2, or Pro 3, excuse me. That synthetic leather is like immediately it's molded to your foot, and it molds almost even quicker than regular leather does. Whereas this is, yes, see, you get, yeah, okay, it's getting a little bit soft, but the midfoot is still the Nike Tiempo Legend 10 midfoot. So that's, you know, it's par for the course for this. I'm not gonna be overly positive about the break-in time because it's kind of shocking compared to most leather boots on the market. But for a synthetic leather, I'd say it's probably about mid-pack in this Montebelluna version. The regular Fly Touch Plus that you get on the normal Tiempo Legend 10 is absolutely abysmal. I don't think that boot is good for break-in at all, particularly in some of those special edition like emerald colorways that had extra layers of shiny coating and PVD and stuff on them. Not good, not good. And I don't usually recommend this, but sometimes in order to break in boots, I actually, especially with a boot like this that's got sort of that monosock construction with the knit in the midfoot, I do sometimes play with them untied, just for little drills like this, not super crazy stuff, but I do like to play in them untied sometimes just because it's like, okay, you know, it's gotta be, you gotta open up the boot just a little bit, especially for those of us with a wide midfoot. The other thing is the sole plate, which, ooh, we'll go one more shot. And one thing is the sole plate. The sole plate is actually really nice, especially on turf pitches like this or AG grounds. And I would say it's really lovely. Oh, Lord. Tried to kill that one. It's much better than I think the GX sole plate. I actually think if you threw this sole plate on the GX, woo, that would be absolutely awesome. But for AG and FG surfaces, this Tiempo sole plate, I feel similarly about this one compared to the Tiempo Legend 9. It's like both are really, really good for both surface types. Also, if you're a wide-footed player and you want to get into a pair of Tiempo 10 Luxe Edition, I would strongly recommend when you tie your laces tight to just really gently pull them in the midfoot area, and then you can tie them tight right on the cusp of your ankle. So what that's gonna do is it's basically gonna allow your midfoot to sort of stretch and move, and then there you go from there. Decent footwork could be a little bit better there, but not bad finish. So moving around in the Tiempo, honestly, not that bad. Lateral stability is pretty good, given that it's a little bit more of a structured synthetic upper. Those birds are crazy loud, goodness. And I think it's one of those, almost had the goal of my life there. In terms of lateral structure, you're gonna find these are gonna be pretty good, particularly with the fly knit in the midfoot, because it's gonna really enclose your foot in what is essentially like, again, that monosock style construction. Oh, we're just gonna redo that one coming out. But yeah, no, look, I think massive improvement compared to the regular Tiempo, whether it's the quality of the Fly Touch Plus, or whether it's the, you know, like otherwise it's the stitching pattern, right? Because nothing else from a construction perspective is different compared to the regular Tiempo 10. So I don't know, they've made it different enough that it's got me sort of reconsidering like the viability of these for my own enjoyment and play, which is kind of cool, Oh, so the good news, ooh, The good news is that this Tiempo and the current construction, if they can nail the quality of the upper, and again, I'm assuming Nike didn't use like a special new proprietary Fly Touch Plus that only can exist in Montebelluna, right? So if that's the case, then the good news is that, these boots can exist in the normal, everyday Nike lineup, right? All they have to do is continue on with, whatever micro changes they've made to this upper from the perspective of the color. And then they also need to change the stitching from the really low profile quilted stuff to, oh man, can't pass a ball for my life right now. You get the idea though. Change the stitching pattern, especially in the toe box area, to something more higher volume so that you're sort of catering to those players who really want something a little bit more roomy, but also a little bit more plush feeling. It doesn't feel like a synthetic vapor of old, right? It's just, this feels way more Tiempo than the current generation. So that's the good news, right? Nike, you can do this for the Tiempo 11. Make improvements to the Fly Touch Plus, do a synthetic if you have to. Obviously I want leather, but I think it's nice to know that Nike does have it in them to do a Tiempo like this that's a lot more enjoyable than the normal Tiempo 10. Last little bit here, little free kick action, little one step up and rip. I do think that this new plush forefoot does allow for a much more enjoyable striking surface, at least for me. Because again, the more I can sort of not wiggle my toes, I don't want it to be loosey-goosey, but what I do want it to be is flexible enough that I can really like make the shape of the shape that I need for my foot in order to strike the ball with technique like I want to. And this boot, same, nice top corner. Not quite there. This boot really allows me to do that much more so than Tiempo. And again, we're talking relative here. So I'm not saying this boot is perfect. In fact, I would say it still is sort of mid-tier in terms of today's standards. Get in. But I do think it's much improved. Those little tiny tweaks make it a lot better than the Tiempo Legend 10, which for me, the normal Tiempo Legend 10 is like bottom of the rung, needs to get killed. Whereas these are actually like a viable football boot now, believe it or not. So, hey, kind of cool. Right, so first impression playtest of the Tiempo, I'm sweating my ass off right now, it is so warm, is much better. Again, I'm impressed that Nike was able to come out with something that really does improve on the current generation Tiempo, which is a just absolute abysmal football boot, whereas these actually do perform much better than I expected, I think. That being said, made in Montebelluna, it's exciting, but it's also synthetic. So you have to kind of take, even though it says made in Montebelluna, it's like the whole port wine colorway. It's this whole like inspired by Totti. It's inspired by those Tiempo Legend 3 elites that I have on my wall. That's all great and good, but if the Fly Touch Plus doesn't perform like it needs to, the shape is all wonky, like it's still a Tiempo Legend 10, which is kind of disappointing. So in terms of my thoughts on this moving forward, this is unlike the regular Tiempo, a Tiempo that I actually think I will wear on a pretty consistent basis. It's lightweight, it's nice, it's much more comfortable, it does a lot of things better. And the remarkable thing is that, like I was saying during the free kicks or maybe the other technical piece, is that Nike really doesn't have to change a whole lot with their current generation Tiempo. Make it with this material, this version of Fly Touch Plus, do the stitching pattern, make the forefoot a little bit higher volume and a little bit more flexible, and then the rest of the boot is the exact same as the normal Tiempo. And so you make, again, those subtle improvements, and I'm hopeful that Tiempo Legend 11, whatever that ends up happening whenever that ends up dropping soon, or in the next 6 months to a year or whatever, I hope that they just take a book or a note from Adidas book with the Predator generation, small incremental improvements. Copa Pure 3 is another example of that. Mizuno, right, the Mizunoification. I hope they use the Mizuno philosophy of just small improvement like this is, small pieces that don't seem like that big of a deal, but actually make a really substantial difference in the way that this boot performs. So overall thoughts on the Tiempo Legend 10 Elite Luxe Special Edition, nice job. Nice job. It gets a solid 7.5, almost 8 out of 10 for me. It's good. Like it's much better than the regular Tiempo. And the regular Tiempo for me sits at like a 4. So massive improvement. You've almost doubled your score, Nike. So make a Tiempo that's like this and not like the Tiempo Legend 10. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel somewhere down there and like the video if you got value from it. Hope you guys are well, and I'll see you guys in the next video.